Birchbark House by Louise Erdrich is a 1999 juvenile novel with that follows the family of Makeways, a 11-year-old girl growing up in 1847 community, Ojibwe community, sort of around the area of kind of Lake Superior. It's to me, it kind of reminds me of the Great Brain books by John D. Macdonald. They're a little bit on the kind of episodic sense, even though there is a little bit of an overarching story. It starts off with an odd prologue, which the prologue is hunters going by an island and finding, it's like everyone has died, but they can hear the cries of a baby. And they're too afraid to actually go to the island and rescue the baby themselves. But one of the hunters says, like, oh, maybe I'll tell my wife. And that's an odd little thing that gets dropped at the very, very beginning of the story. That's obviously not spoiled because it is the prologue. But it's not something that really is addressed, or I never even thought about it until I get to the very, very, very end of the novel. And at which point we get revealed with Makeways what the significance of that opening scene is. So there's I sort of enjoyed that, like, especially when I finished reading the book. It's like, oh wow, I kind of got to discover that along with Makeways, the little girl whose name means little frog because the first step she ever took was a hop. That, it's like, oh, I got to discover what that was. Following her kind of her fairly kind of gentle adventures at the beginning, bumping into some bear cubs and bumping into a mother bear and surviving that, and that being kind of part of the kind of very kind of vivid felt childhood of growing up in what's, obviously for someone like me, complete wilderness area, and all her interactions with her family. She has a little baby brother who they can't, they're trying to kind of, the elders are trying to like dream a name of, but they can't dream a name of. They've got her annoying younger brother, Little Pinch, who becomes Big Pinch over the course of the novel, who's just so annoying, and a kind of a snooty, beautiful older sister who she kind of hero worships, of course wants nothing to with her. So it's like very much, it engages you. You feel them, you feel the mother and the father who is off trapping, who is part white, is part, I think, French Canadian. So I guess Métis would be what who would be referred to as, and just their life and their hardships. And indeed, because I've been reading about this time period, it's like I sort of could see kind of some of the hardships coming. And indeed, that opening scene of all the people have died on this island from a disease does come up within the book, and real heartache ensues. We also get very much kind of the spiritual life, the like, listening to the kind of voices in nature. There's implication that Makeways is sort of a special little girl, that she is, that those around her are kind of watching her, waiting to see, like, what is her path going to be. And indeed, as it develops through the novel, she kind of discovers her strengths and kind of this sort of the special things that she can bring to her community. But it is very much also in that kind of ethos of this isn't like she is the dramatically great one. It's like, no, this is like her part in this community, what special part, how she's going to support this community. And Louise Erdrich, who is a Ojibwe herself, obviously is very well versed in the history of her people and how brutal and tough things are going to get. But and I think that this was really in my mind, because I've been reading a book called Clearing the Plains by James Daschuk, which is all about clearing the plains with famine and disease of all the native peoples the plains to make way for the building of Canada. The sometimes in ignorance, the disease being spread, but also just the use of control of food to force natives to do what the Canadian government wanted to do, to move them off land. And you really get the sense of, there's talk from the older people, the parents, and that, like, of more and more settlers are coming. Are we going to move up north where there's settlements, there's government money for and supplies that will be given if you move up north, which you can see. But it's I think I found this book valuable because while James Daschuk's book is really valuable and lists a litany of just kind of the misery and hardships, it's really good to get that balance with an imagining of, hey, these weren't just victims of smallpox and starvation and hunger. These were people who had rich, complex, a lot of times joyful lives, which makes all the shitty stuff of history all the more properly shitty. So yeah, it's a really good book. It is written definitely for younger people. It has that sort of a tone. I listened to it in an audiobook, and it was read that way, but it's also it's told from the point of view of this young girl. So while it's got a kind of a rich language, and there's a certain kind of poetry there, it's also like a well told children's tale, which is a hard thing to do. You can write simple and it just be thudding, or you can write simply with kind of lucid kind of clarity, which is what I think Louise Erdrich does. So I heartily recommend that, whether you're some 50-something old dude, or if you have some kids who want to read something that's got heartache in it, as well as just the kind of great joy, but also is kind of, it's kind of sharing with you what life might have been like at that time. Yeah. So that's my review of the Birchbark House by Louise Erdrich. I'm going to go with Erdrich. More videos later.